This video is about changing urban environments, which is 1/3 of AQA Geography A GCSE Unit 2. This whole unit is essentially about urbanisation and the effect that it has on people. Urbanisation is a process where an increasing proportion of the population lives in towns and cities, so people mainly do rural to urban migration, which is when people move from the countryside to towns, so towns and cities get really populated and the countryside kind of dies out. Industrialisation is a process in which increasing proportions of the population are employed in manufacturing, and often with urbanisation, industrialisation takes place as well. Since 2008, over half the world's population has lived in towns and cities. That's a lot of people, in case you hadn't realised. There's a greater increase in the proportion of the population living in towns in less developed regions of the world than in more developed regions, so urbanisation is occurring much faster in LEDCs, is that what they're called? LEDCs than in MEDCs. Countries in North America, Europe and Australia are the most developed, and then South America and Northern Asia, relatively developed, and then countries in South Asia and Africa tend to be the least developed. So urbanisation is occurring fastest there. There's two main ways that geographers show development, the Brandt line and the choropleth map. The Brandt line divides countries into north and south dependent on development. It's a sort of curvy line. I think it goes under Australia, so that Australia is north of the line, and countries north of the line are developed and countries south of the line are generally underdeveloped. And the line only takes into account GDP to measure development and doesn't show differences in development within a country, so many people think it's quite inaccurate. But to be fair, the choropleth map, which is coloured according to development, you might have red countries that are really developed and blue countries that are really undeveloped, or I think it might be the other way around actually, but I guess it depends on the key for that map. But that one also doesn't show differences within a country, it only shows the country itself. There's two main causes of urbanisation, rural-urban migration and natural increase. Rural-urban migration is the result of push-pull factors such as employment. So people see, ooh, there's loads of jobs in the city, let's all go to the city. So everyone goes from the countryside to the city, especially when there's like droughts and problems in the countryside so they can't do proper farming. Migrants often tend to be younger because older people are too frail to make the move and stuff. So that leads to natural increase because they're sort of childbearing age. They go find a partner, get it on, have some babies, and then you get natural increase. Natural increase mainly due to young migrants, and the improving healthcare in the cities leads to a lower death rate. So whilst the birth rate is increasing, the death rate is decreasing, which leads to an increase in the urban population. And if that's increasing and the rural population is decreasing, because people are moving away or staying sort of the same, it means that the proportion of people living in urban areas is increasing, hence urbanisation. This is an image of the Burgess model, which shows the varying land use in an urban area. Land use is the type of building and feature found in the area, so central business districts in the centre, then you've got the inner city manufacturing, inner city residential, outer city suburbs, and then the rural urban fringe, which is when people are like, oh, we don't know whether to go countryside or busy cities, so they sort of go in the middle. And each area tends to have a particular function, and that could be residential, recreational, shopping, factories, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to go quickly through what each of the areas main features and stuff. So the central business district, or CBD, is the focal point of the city. It's got the highest land prices, that's why everything's all built up in the cities, because people can't afford lots of land, so instead of having a really large flat shop, they have a tall shop which goes up and up and up, so you have to do lots of exercise going up the stairs, which is good for people like me that don't get much exercise. The main roads all meet up here, so it's really easily accessible, and that's why the shops locate here, because otherwise they go elsewhere where the land prices are cheaper. But because everyone goes to the CBD because all the main roads go there, all the bus links and everything, shops are like, oh, everyone's coming here, we want a big target market, so plonk your shop there. The inner city is the next area, and it contains many terraced houses and lots of flats which they've tried to rejuvenate. There used to be factories there, but these factories have been replaced by the flats because we don't do much manufacturing anymore in the UK. We've sort of lost it all to other countries. The suburbs are built up areas. They're built up between the two world wars and contain detached and semi-detached houses, and they've got areas of green space for people to play about in. They're quite good public transport links, I think, and people have gardens in these areas more so than they'd have in the inner city. Then you get the rural-urban fringe, which is built right around the edge of the city. It tends to be built after the war because they're trying to improve people's quality of life. People have got more money due to the economic growth and stuff, so people can afford better houses. And in the fringe, you get estates with cul-de-sacs. I've never seen the point of cul-de-sacs. I think they're the roads that don't go anywhere. I'm sorry, what's the point of having a road that doesn't go anywhere? And they contain detached and large semi-detached houses, which have multiple cars, space for parking and stuff, and nice gardens. So it's quite a nice area, I think. Unfortunately, there's many issues for people living in urban areas and rich countries. The main ones are housing, traffic, multicultural mix. It's not the mix itself, it's the segregation in these areas, the CBD and pollution in the area, and the inner city. There wasn't really much to go on this slide, so I thought I'd do a lovely image. And it's very rubbish, you can't actually see anything, but that is a picture of all the issues facing urban areas and rich countries. So, enjoy. I really want a cool voice here that goes, issue 1, but I can't get one because I don't have a cool voice and I don't know anyone here that would like to do a cool voice, so I'm just going to have to say issue 1, housing. And the big problem with housing is that there's not enough of them. A household is a person that's living alone, or 2 or more people sharing a house and a living room. So, I mean, you could have multiple people in a house, but if they don't share a living room, they're not a household, as far as this definition is concerned. The population has increased by 7% since 1971, and the number of households has increased by 30%, because more people are living alone, single Pringles, that's me in a few years. People are living longer, woo woo, due to improving healthcare and stuff like that. And people are marrying later due to cultural changes, people not being able to afford to marry, and people don't tend to live together. Well, actually, people do live together when they're not married. I don't know what I'm on about, but just the number of married couples that live together is much greater than the number of people living together that aren't married. Luckily, our amazing government has come up with a solution to this problem. Building more houses. How sensible. You can build either on brownfield, which is land that has been built on before and is to be cleared and reused, or greenfield, which is land that has not yet been built on and is usually in the countryside. The government plans to build 240,000 new homes a year by 2016. Probably won't happen, knowing our government. 60% of which will be on brownfield sites, and some of which will be built on greenfield sites. There's many advantages and disadvantages of building on each, and they're sort of opposite to each other, if you know what I mean. So I've just put the advantages of each one, and in case, I don't know, you can't read or something, I've coloured in the ones for brownfield in brown and the ones for greenfield in green. Well, I haven't even coloured them all in, just the titles, but you know. Okay, brownfield advantages, you get easy planning permission because the government wants to see these areas built up because they're quite unattractive usually. Utilities are already provided, like electricity, water and stuff. The roads are already there, so you can sort of build around them, and the people that go there find it easy to get onto the road and get from place to place. It's near to facilities in town, like shops and stuff, so people will love to go live there. And it cuts commuting because, say you put a house in the greenfield land, which tends to be right on the edge of the city, people would have to drive a long way. But if you put it in the brownfield site in the middle of the city, you don't have to go very far to get to your work. There's greenfield advantages too. You don't have to do clearing because on the brownfield site you've got all this old debris mess from the last stuff that was built there. Greenfield, it's a lovely field, so you just mow the grass, cut the grass up, get rid of it. I don't know what you do when you build houses, but do that and put your house there. No road restrictions, because with the brownfield you have to sort of build your way around the roads, but with the greenfield you can make the roads up as you go. The land's also cheaper because it's further away from the centre of the city. There's space for gardens, and that's pretty, yeah. Have a garden, a few flowers, vegetable patch, and there's a pleasant countryside atmosphere. It's all nice and jolly, and a few rabbits sleeping around, and some flowers and some fields, and an angry farmer telling you to get the hell off his land, and stuff like that. The second big issue is traffic. Car ownership's increased dramatically recently due to the decreasing price of cars due to cheaper production and stuff. So everyone can afford a car now, so everyone's like, oh, we're going to get a car, and they get a car. The increased commuting distance, because the places of work are getting more and more spread out, so you really need a car to get from place to place. And the wider spread of facilities, which is basically the same thing. Cars, unfortunately, have got a few problems with them. They lead to air pollution because they release carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Or is it nitrogen dioxide? Well, they release all this stuff that you don't really want, and particulates and stuff like that. Noise pollution, vroom, vroom. The discolouring of buildings, you might get some lovely old brick buildings that have sort of gone really disgusting. And ugly villages. I mean, large traffic jams through the villages just looks disgusting. Well, some people might think it looks nice, but, that's just a few weirdos. Car use can be decreased through park and ride schemes, congestion charging, Oyster cards, subsidised buses and trams, which is when the government pays for your ticket or pays for part of the ticket, Barclay bikes, which I believe have been very successful in London, also known as Boris bikes, and car sharing. I didn't really put car sharing on there. I'm not a fan of car sharing. I mean, if it was me, I'd just get into a car and it'd be a murderer. So, I mean, I wouldn't advise car sharing at any cost, but, you might enjoy it. Element of risk, adrenaline rush. Yeah, fun. Issue 3 is the segregation, which is a result of multicultural mix. Segregation is when people of a particular ethnic group choose to live separate from other groups, and it can lead to problems like hate crimes and racism, unfortunately. Segregation occurs because the segregated feel that they've got the support of others in the same race. So say, I don't know, I was from Turkey, and there was loads of other Turkey people living in the area. I might want to go with them rather than plonk myself in the middle of a typical British street, because they might turn against me because they feel I'm here to steal their resources or something like that. There's also a familiar culture and language in the area, so everyone in my street will speak Turkish, and so I'll be able to join in their conversations. Whereas if I just go onto a British street, everyone will speak English and say I was Turkish, I might not have a clue what they're on about. There's also specialist facilities such as religious buildings in the area, so I've got church, a mosque, a synagogue, a temple, that sort of thing. And you also get shops, like you might get a kosher shop or a Christian shop or stuff like that. I don't know what types of shops there are. I'm not a religious person. And also people of certain ethnic background tend to do similar jobs, and there's good employment opportunities for them if they go to the area where there's loads of people that do the same jobs. We can do a number of things to reduce segregation though, like improving education to teach people about different groups and their needs. So that should lead to less prejudice and stuff. There's also increasing employment opportunities of different types in all areas, so that people don't feel they have to all accumulate together because the jobs that they want are only in that area. If you spread out the jobs, then it means they feel they can go wherever they want and still be able to get the job they want. You can also organise community meetings to bring all the groups together. So, I don't know, you could have an art club that only opens on days when nobody is worshipping. It serves food for halal, kosher, Christians, I don't know, whatever people eat, and stuff like that, and it'll bring all the kids together when they're young, and that's really important because that will bring about a sense of community and respect and for each other within them. And you can also provide facilities for everyone to make everyone feel welcome. So you could have a row of, church, a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, whatever different buildings you need, and then everyone will feel like they're being treated equally, and that'll make everyone feel happy, hopefully. Issue 4 is the CBD, and there's not really much to say about this, so I put it into quite big writing, so it looks like it's more than it is, but there really is nothing to say. Because in the 1960s, they were quite unpleasant places, smelly, quite ugly, lots of factories, so air quality was low, stuff like that. So businesses were like, we don't want to go there, we're going to go into the countryside, and they set off in the countryside. And so business in the area worsened the issue, negative multiplier effect due to lack of demand in the area, and that led to more and more unemployment. So the government was like, we're going to have some initiatives, and they improved vibrancy, made the CBD more pleasant, so firms were like, actually we do want to set up there, and they went and set up there, leading to a positive multiplier effect in the area due to the increased demand, increased employment, and generally nicer area. The final issue is the inner city areas, and there's quite a few problems in these areas. So there's lots of different schemes that the government's trying to set up and run to try to improve the areas. So there's the UDCs, which is the Urban Development Corporations, the City Challenge, and Sustainable Communities. The Urban Development Corporations were set up in the 1980s and 90s, and they used a mixture of public funding and private investment to buy the land, and then they could build on the land and stuff and set up new businesses, new roads, new houses, whatever they want, which improves inner city areas. City Challenge is when local authorities partner with the local community and local businesses to design a scheme, and they submit this scheme and compete against other councils to get funding from the government. Obviously some bits from the government, some bits actually from private companies, and then that's used to improve the area as well. And the final strategy is sustainable communities, which are communities that are designed to offer housing, employment and recreation and improve the quality of life in general, while staying balanced with the environment. So you keep all the eco-freaks happy and all the people that just want a better life. And housing, education, healthcare and security is generally high quality in these areas. It's a happy place for everyone. Yay! So the next big topic we're coming on to is squatter settlements, which are areas of cities which are usually found on the outskirts, so on the edges and stuff. They're built by people with any material they can find on land that doesn't belong to them. They're known as favelas in Brazil, bastis in India, and shanties in Africa. So it's just good to know a few different names in case they come up with a different name in the exam and you're like, what the hell is that? I've never heard of that. Okay, and then there's the informal sector, which is the part of the economy where unofficial jobs are created by people trying to gain income, like collecting washing or washing cars. They don't really have cars, I guess, they can't afford them, but that sort of thing. And the speed of urbanisation in poor areas leads to squatter settlements because everyone sees the jobs in the cities, so that everyone travels there, but there aren't enough jobs, so people can't buy houses, so they just have to build their own house out of any materials they can find. That's due to rural urban migration. So that's how squatter settlements come about. Squatter settlements have no basic infrastructure, poor sanitation and no toilets, which leads to really bad health. Unstable houses made from corrugated iron, cardboard and wood, leading to major collapse if there's an earthquake or something bad like that. Very little space per person, like 2 meters square per person, which is like mini. Imagine living in an area that small. There's mass overcrowding, so loads and loads and loads of people. A build-up of rubbish which stinks. Ugh. High crime rate and high death rates due to disease. Disease is horrible. You get loads of cholera because of the flying toilet system, so people don't have their own flushing toilets, so you stick your mess into a bag and chuck it out the window. Aim for people you don't like. But seriously, it lands in the water supply of other people, and then they get disease from that, so not a good thing to do. Squatter settlements tend to have poorly paid and reliable jobs in the informal sector, no money to pay for improvements, so it's going to be stuck like this. Uneducated children that will struggle to find a job in the future, no healthcare, so high death rate, and no privacy because everyone can see what you're doing. If they don't like you, they can literally just push over your house and it will fall over. So it's quite a bad way to live. Though actually, I've heard that people in squatter settlements are actually really happy and enjoy their lives. So good for them. There's 2 main strategies used to improve living standards of those living in squatter settlements: self-help and site and service. Self-help is when local authorities help squatter settlement residents to improve their homes by offering finance in the form of loans or grants. They often install water and sanitation to prevent illness and spread of disease and to promote cleanliness. This allows residents to stay with their families because they don't have to move to a home elsewhere, while still improving their quality of life. However, residents could object to interfering because they might be like, oh, why are you coming to our home? We don't want you here. And squatter settlements could expand because if people hear that the government or the local authorities, whoever's providing this extra help, people might come to join the squatter settlement, making it bigger and making it more of an issue. Site and service is when land away from the squatter settlement is divided into individual plots, each one with water, sanitation and electricity, and there's a basic track layout, so there's roads already there before the building by the resident begins. The basic needs of the residents are installed, so stuff like water, sanitation, electricity. I think I've already said all that. But yeah, that's all installed, which improves their quality of life. But unfortunately, residents are forced to relocate, which could be seen as a good thing because it's reducing the size of the actual squatter settlement. But it could be seen as a bad thing because it takes them away from their family and place of work, and that's not very nice for them. Now we're doing another case study of Kibera. Kibera is in Nairobi in Kenya, and 60% of Nairobi's inhabitants live in slums, half of them in Kibera, so that means that 30% of Nairobi's population lives in the Kiberan slum. Over 1 million people live in the 255 hectares in Kibera, so that's a lot of people in a very small area. And there's a high population density, and people only have 1 metre squared floor space each, so you'd have to probably curl up, wouldn't you? And there's also 100,000 orphans due to HIV and AIDS, and they're going to present a problem. And they're going to present a problem in the long run because no one's going to be able to look after them, except for maybe the neighbours and stuff. And they probably won't get education, and then they'll have to live in poverty too. Homes in Kibera tend to be made of mud plastered over wooden boards, or corrugated iron sheeting, or at the worst, cardboard. The paths between houses are narrow, and they've got a sewage ditch running through the middle, which is a bit grim. And rubbish isn't collected. Standpipes supply water to 40 families, and there's a high crime rate. Despite all this, the residents of Kibera report being happy and enjoying their life due to the strong community spirit and the fact that they're welcoming to other inhabitants' homes anytime, and the inhabitants tend to keep their homes really clean, quite contrasting with the general atmosphere of the slum. There's 4 major solutions which have been developed to help Kiberian residents. The first one's Practical Action, which is a British charity which has developed cheap roof tiles made of sand and clay. They've developed some method by adding natural fibre and lime and soil and stuff together to create building blocks, and this allows the residents to build their houses out of more stable material rather than just bits of wood and stuff which would collapse really easily. And it also enables self-help schemes to progress at a low cost, so more people can be helped for the same amount of money. Second solution was the United Nations Human Settlement Programme, which provides affordable electricity and water to residents, because in the past you'd get a few rich people who would sell water very, very high price to residents, and they couldn't afford it, so they had to drink dirty water. But now there's 2 main water pipes which are provided by the Council and the World Bank, and they sell water for 3 Kenyan shillings for 20 litres, which is plenty to provide a whole family with water for a while. Then there's the sanitation and medical programmes, which are provided by charities in general, and gap year students are also encouraged to go to Kibera to oversee spending, help out, maybe treat a few people. And it's a really good experience for the gap year students as well as helping out the people in Kibera. The final solution is the Kiberan 15-year project. I'm not actually sure if that's the name, but I did look online to see if it had a name, and I couldn't find any name except the 15-year project, so maybe that is its name. And this began in 2003 with the aim to rehouse thousands of residents. It was a joint venture between the Kenyan residents and UN Habitats, and it's been really successful. In its first year, 770 families were housed in new blocks of flats with running water, and in the first year 60 million Kenyan shillings were set aside, and the authorities are very hopeful that this success is going to continue for many more years. There's 4 main problems which result from rapid urbanisation in poorer parts of the world: industrial accidents due to rapid industrialisation, electronic waste, untreated sewage and construction waste. Industrial accidents happen because there's no regulations and poor planning, usually, for expanding cities, and this leads to a massive increase very quickly in the size of the cities, and that leads to pollution and a lack of disposal of waste, so factories and people that are generating waste don't have any way of disposing of it, so it just piles up, and that can lead to serious industrial accidents. Like, an example is Bhopal, I think that's how you pronounce it, in India, and in 1984 December, lots of poisonous gas escaped from a chemical plant, and 3,000 people died, and that was a really serious industrial accident. I think it's the worst one in the history of industrial accidents, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Then there's electronic waste, which is because people in poorer parts of the world break down computers to get parts, and they melt down these parts to get precious metal, which they can sell on. But unfortunately, melting these parts releases fumes which can have serious health risks for them. And untreated sewage is an issue, and it often flows into the river along with disease-causing microbes, cremated remains, chemicals, and a lot of grim stuff that you really wouldn't want to go in the water that you're going to drink and wash in. Ugh. And that leads to people suffering serious health issues. The final problem is construction waste. Due to the construction booms in poorer parts of the world, because construction's an industry that you can get quite a lot of money from quite quickly, there's a lot of waste, and vast quantities of carbon dioxide and particulates are released due to construction, which is obviously bad, leading to global warming and stuff. Luckily, there's lots of ways that we can solve this problem. Waste disposal can be solved by using landfill, which is when you line a large hole in the ground and fill it with rubbish. And because it's lined, it means that the chemicals and stuff released won't seep into the soil. You can also get biogas from this. Biology lovers, you'll get that. If you don't, then don't care. Residents can then take rubbish from the landfill and reuse and resell it. Like, you can buy those books, can't you, that are like, I used to be a tree, or I used to be a tyre, or I used to be a scarecrow. Yeah, if you don't know what I'm on about, I'm sorry, but I've seen them in shops, and they're like things that you buy that used to be something else, but they sort of maybe do that on a smaller scale or something. I know that they quite like to use car tyres to make sandals and take food waste and use it as fertilisers and give it to animals and stuff. Large companies should be taking responsibility for safely disposing of electrical goods and removing the more chemicals at the end of the goods life, so that the people that work in poorer countries don't feel the need to take these chemicals and metals out and melt them down, exposing themselves to a massive number of health problems. This would be really easy for them to do. All they'd have to do is just take the chemical out, or the metal out, or whatever they need to take out. I'm not really a computer expert. Recycling would be another good solution to waste disposal issues in many poorer countries, because they just have to collect and reprocess products instead of throwing them away. So, I mean, you wouldn't get a massive build-up of waste, and you'd also get to save natural resources and stuff, because you wouldn't be getting more resources, you can just use the old ones. Air pollution is when you put harmful substances into the atmosphere, and due to rapid industrialisation and urbanisation, industrial production has increased massively, and in some countries there's no limits on pollution, they don't have many laws and stuff, so technology needs to be developed that can reduce emissions, or maybe countries over here can sell our technology to countries over there to reduce emissions and save the environment. And reducing traffic can also cut air pollution, because cars in poorer countries often don't have catalytic converters and stuff put in, so that can lead to a release of poisonous gases and stuff. And finally, water pollution is when you put poisonous substances into watercourses, and there's limits regarding to water pollution that need to be set and enforced to save the world, essentially, because at the moment we're getting loads of sewage waste going into the water that people are drinking, and it's leading to a large number of diseases, which is really unpleasant. Okay, we're moving on to sustainable urban living, and I'd like to apologise for the fact that the writing is so small that you can hardly read it, and my voice is awful today. I don't know what's wrong with it. Sustainable city is an urban area where residents have a way of life that will last a long time. The environment is not damaged, and the economic and social fabric, due to local involvement, is able to stand the test of time. Say that in a posh accent, you'd sound even more ridiculous. Sorry, it might look impressive in an exam, but who actually uses that kind of language? Not me. That's just the definition that I got out of the textbook, so I'm guessing that's the definition they want, but it sounds ridiculous. And there are several ways to provide economic sustainability. First one is conserving the historic and natural environment, and you can do this by designating historic buildings as World Heritage Sites, which allows them to be preserved, and then you can use them for something else, like, I don't know, I think there's a nice building somewhere that's used as the home of a bank or something, but I might have just made that up. In fact, it's very likely that I just made that up. And we also reduce urban sprawl through the use of green belts, and if we can designate green belt areas around cities, it means that people won't build on them, hopefully, although this government seems to be trying to, and that will promote sustainability and keep it at a reasonable size each city. Building on brown belts is encouraged to promote sustainability, and for all the reasons that we discussed, I don't know, half an hour ago. Half an hour of listening to me, how awful. Okay, then there's reducing and safely disposing of waste, and the government sets targets for the quantity of rubbish that must be recycled, and we really should stop trying to use as many plastic bags. I mean, I know a number of supermarkets have started charging for plastic bags and stuff and taking away advantages and selling bags for life and stuff like that. They're not really bags for life. I swear half the bags for life that we've got have got holes in. But anyway, packaging should be dramatically reduced, and like on Easter eggs, you know Easter eggs, when you get an Easter egg, it's got a massive cardboard box, and then there's like one mini egg somewhere in the middle. You have to like get a magnifying glass out to find it. They're so small. Pathetic. Obviously, some waste is always going to be created, and it should be disposed of by incineration, which is like burning it, or landfill. Incineration's got the advantage that when you burn it, you get heat off, which you can use to heat homes and generate electricity and stuff. But you often get a toxic ash left behind, and that's really bad. If it goes into water and stuff, it can lead to water pollution. And landfill, again, you can get biogas and heat and stuff, but it smells bad, and it takes up a large area of land. ugly scar on the landscape, stuff like that. Just make stuff up. They'll love it. Providing adequate open space also promotes sustainable urban living because, say, greenbelts, for example, they offer open spaces for recreational activity. So you can go down to a greenbelt area, run around in the fields, feel like a 5-year-old and look ridiculous. And you can also get daisies, pretty daisies, make a daisy chain, yay! I sound so mad. And many cities often have designated areas of open space, such as parks, gardens and playing fields, within the city themselves, so that residents that are close to the centre of the city can still get their exercise and stay physically active and healthy. Involving local people also promotes sustainable urban living because it makes them feel involved, because you're involving them. That's the most pointless thing I've ever said. Except for yesterday when I said the football was going to go to extra time unless someone scored. Oh dear, I'm so stupid. People are consulted at all stages of planning through surveys and meetings to make them feel involved, and if you do feel involved in your local community, you're more likely to want to look after it and care for it and nurture it as if it's your own baby, apparently. That's their theory anyway. Residents who have chosen local improvements are more likely to care for their homes. Like, say you gave a resident a survey and said, what do you want improving in your home? And they said, I want a light bulb. And they're more likely to care for their light bulb. I don't know, that's the theory anyway, I'm not really sure. The final thing you can do is provide an efficient transport system. Because the high volume of cars is a barrier to a city becoming sustainable, because not only do they cause congestion, road accidents, they also cause pollution, which is really bad for the environment. And obviously if we keep producing pollution at the rate we're producing it, it's going to lead to horribly accelerated climate change and we're all going to die. We need to provide efficient, reliable and comfort public transport to encourage their use. I mean, my local bus turns up once an hour, supposedly. It's usually about 10 minutes late, smells bad. It's not the cheapest either. And so I'm discouraged from using it and I want to take the car in, but I don't have a car, so I can't, and I can't drive. But aside from all those issues, other people who may have got cars may feel the same way, and that'll put them off using it and that'll lead to more pollution and stuff. So yeah. We're on the last case study now, and it is Curitiba. I'm always really bad at pronouncing that. I don't even know why. It's so easy to pronounce Curitiba, but I can never pronounce it the first time I see it. Anyway, Curitiba is the capital city of Paraná, which is a Brazilian state with a population of 1.8 million people, so that's quite a lot of people. Actually, it's not that many people, come to think of it, given there's 7.1 billion people in the world. But it is quite a few people. Like, it's more than in my house at the moment, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm seeing how many people live in London. I think it's 3 billion or million even, or something. I was close. 8.2 million. Relatively close. Nice little scale. Anyway, Curitiba is a role model for planning and sustainability, supposedly. Good for it. A plan was developed in the 1940s to allow controlled expansion, which is when they're allowing the city to grow, but without causing problems. And they're sort of controlling it. So they're like, we're going to allow you to grow, but we're in control the whole time, wahaha. And in 1958, there was the Curitiba Master Plan, which is in bold because it's really important and awesome. And that had the aim of controlling urban sprawl, reducing traffic, developing public transport, and preserving the historic sector. The plan emphasises on ensuring the appropriate quality of life for residents, and also focuses on protecting the environment because we don't want to see all the little bunnykins die. I think I just said little bunnykins and now I feel a bit sick. The two main things that the plan focused on were the transport in the area and housing. Transport was developed and they formed a bus rapid transport system, otherwise known as the BRT system. And apparently Curitiba was the first Brazilian city to have dedicated bus lines. And the system had 4 key elements. So there's direct bus lines which operate from a key pickup point. So you'd go there and, I don't know, get on the bus. I'm not sure. I don't live in Brazil. Speedy buses, so because they're fast, you're like, oh, let's go on this bus, because it's probably faster than getting in the car, because buses can force their way through the traffic. Also in Curitiba, they've got this really cool road system. I'm not quite remembering it very well, but I think it's got bus lanes that are separate, so I think it's got maybe 4 lanes or something. So it's got a car lane, a bus lane, and a car lane. And the bus lanes are obviously much faster because there's fewer vehicles on, so it really encourages people to use the bus lanes instead, which is much better for the environment. Then there are inter-district buses, which join districts without crossing the city centre, so avoiding the issue of lots of congestion in the city centre. So that would be really useful. And feeder minibuses, which pick people up from residential areas, so say that you don't live very near a bus stop. I know that happened to my friend. She lives like a mile out, or more than that. I remember when I walked a mile to get to my bus stop because I didn't realise there was one across the road. That was a bit stupid. Anyway, so say you didn't live near a bus stop, you might think, oh, I'll just have to take the car. But no, we have feeder minibuses, and they will pick you up and take you to a bus stop, which is very nice of them. And then we have housing in Curitiba. And it's got a public housing programme called COHAB. No idea what that stands for. I don't know if I really care, but it believes that residents should have homes, not shelters. Isn't that deep and heartfelt and meaningful? So it basically means that the residents should have somewhere that they enjoy living in case you hadn't worked that out. And that improves their quality of life. And the housing policy that was introduced provides 50,000 homes for the urban poor. And that's a lot of homes. I mean, homes are quite expensive to build, so that's a really generous thing of them. I don't know if they actually paid for the houses for the poor people, or the poor people had to pay, but either way, very nice. And that's the end of the Geography Changing Urban Environments GCSE revision video. Woohoo! I'm gonna have some breakfast. Where? I sounded like a sheep then. Bah.